boy, Haywood Barber on the Haywood Barber Show, coming at you. Yes, indeed, the Harlem Heretic, bringing it to you, marching to my own beat, as I always will, that you can be assured. Here we are, Monday, April Fool's Day, the day after Easter, the resurrection. You know, and I simply named the show the Resurrection, and more than likely I'm going to leave it that way. And I'm going to talk about the resurrection today. The resurrection. Very powerful word, and what it means is even more powerful. I mean, I'm sure right now we all know the story. We know the history of the resurrection. Easter probably, to me, is probably one of the more sacred holidays that we have in the United States. Just to me, and I know a lot of people, do a lot around Christmas and celebrate Christmas, but I believe that here in the country, the United States of America, we probably lost touch with the meaning of most of the holidays, the reason for the season. And I text that out, and I put that in my Facebook. Let's not forget the reason for the season. My son and I, my 8-year-old son and I, we talked a lot about that. I actually gave him a gift. Did not give him a gift. He's 8 years old, and I did not give him a gift for Christmas. Gave him a gift for Easter. Because I believe that the gift, if you follow the storyline of the resurrection, is to me a little bit more significant than that of the storyline for Christmas, which, again, both have been lost completely in my mind, both ways. But I don't really want to touch on that one. I want to stay on that one. But we're going to talk a little bit about Nixon today. We're going to talk definitely about the resurrection. And we're going to talk a little bit about when Clinton wins. And we talk about Hillary Clinton in terms of politics. And we're gonna touch on North Carolina. Well, I'm actually just go ahead and say about North Carolina being a nanny state. They always talk about Bloomberg, Mayor Bloomberg in New York, and Cuomo in New York being a nanny state. And I know the reports came out today. You guys might have heard about this, and you can use this at the water cooler tomorrow, about New York being one of the highest states taxed in regards to the country. It's if I'm not mistaken, in terms of liberty, I know that it came 50 out of 50 states. And I just wanted to go ahead and just do a real quick shout out about North Carolina. A friend of mine came to me and told me that that it's against the law to do X. And North Carolina flips back and forth from being a red state, blue state. They call it a purple state. And I heard today that no sense in trying to make it a red state or blue state. It's going to stay purple for a long time. It's going to vacillate back and forth. North Carolina has 100 counties, and yes, they just flip back and forth from time to time, just depending upon. It used to be, fully Democratic state, and over the years has flipped into the Republican side over the last 20 years. I mention this only that because I live in North Carolina. There's a lot of things going on about Obama. These guys, these right-wing dudes are just unbelievable when it comes to President Obama. This is why I know that it's pure hypocrisy. They are just absolutely over the top when it comes to President Obama. It's fake. It's not real. That they come up with pretense when in regards to the president. It's all pretend when they talk about, well, it's all because he's such a liberal and he's such a he's a socialist and all that kind of good stuff, which we know is all garbage. We know he's not a socialist. He's trying to protect the country. He's trying to protect the weakest voice of those in the country. We know that, right? And we understand that. And let me tell you again, and you guys that have listened to the show from beginning to end to now, not to end till now, know that I was a GOP guy for a very long time. And you know, and one of the primary points and the reason why is because, you know, they try to say that they believe in smaller government, they believe in personal independence, and everybody having the opportunity, that whole, you know, American thing, you get to do what you want to do in order to be, you know, a entrepreneur, and the country is open to entrepreneurism and is open to the fact that you can be, you know, anything that you want to be. And I'm a firm believer in that. However, I realized over the years, and I came in to politics in my my late teens, early 20s, and that was right around the Reagan era. And so, you know, he still spoke to a lot of the things that I believed in, and I believe that my people, if they sought higher abilities to be better for themselves, that they can seek that, they can have that. And then I learned later that it was all a farce. It was all BS. It was all bullshit. I mean, they talked that game, but they were not really for that for everybody. They really wanted to maintain that just for old white men. You know, the grand old party was really a grand old party of participants for white folk, you know, and white men's, you know, particularly. So, you know, coming away from that and learning that, I learned to still be that independent person that can do whatever I want, show my people the best way I could to be independent, to be a self-starter, to be a get-up-and-go kind of a person in order to make it happen for yourself. And I still believe that. And that's when we're going to go back to this whole thing about the resurrection, that you can be anything that you want to be in the resurrection. And remember what that means, right? That word, and I wish I had looked it up and I could have come to a point, and I don't know if I could do two things at once. My wife always tells me that is not my strong suit. I have the dictionary. I keep the dictionary because I'm always looking up words, and want to be able to give you the exact definition of resurrection, right? Because it's about the rebirth, the reborn, the renewing, right? We know that it would, for, you know, the Bible folks, it's all about Jesus, you know, dying on the cross, bearing the sins of the world, and then showing who he is by coming to life again by the power of the Father, which, you know, he is the Son of the Father. But and all through the Bible, whenever you hear Jesus speak, and I think they lose this in the sermons, some pastors, especially the unity churches, make sure that we get this part about Christ being in us being a part of all that Christ is in us. That's the dictionary. I know I shouldn't be doing. I should have wrote it out big. But we are part of Christ, and Christ is a part of us, and we have that God gave to Christ in us, right? So that's the piece about what we all have, and we are tied into Christ being the Son of God, and God being in Christ, and Christ saying that all I am, you are, right? So all that saying is that we have the same power as Christ. I know I'm treading on serious ground here, because I know some people, they have never gotten that from their pastors, and they stay away from that, and I don't know why, because that's the significance of God. That's the significance of Christ being the prophet that he is, that he came with that message. That's the piece right there. But we, for some reason, they dismiss that part, or they overlook that part. And I think I have resurrection, right? The rising of Christ from the dead. Oh, I gotta move my phone because, you know, They will not let me do my show when I want to do my show, right? So, the rising of Christ from the dead, the rising to life of all human dead before the final judgment. Revival. And that's probably where I really wanted to go with this whole thing, the revival, the renewing of life. You, every time Easter comes by, it gives you an opportunity to be anew, to be renewed, to shed off that old skin, to hit the reset button, if you will, to be that person that you always wanted to be, but never had the traction to become. You have that within you. God gives that to every single one of us every single year. Quite frankly, every single day, waking up from the nightfall into the new day, morning, right? Brand new day, break fast. So you break the fast to a new day to be great. You have the power within you at any given time to hit the button, reset, to be renewed. You always have that in you. That's always the power that God gives you. And if you believe through Christ, then it's through Christ. That's where the power comes from. The fact that he sat on the cross to bear our sins, to do what? To have everlasting life. That doesn't mean when you die, then you get to have everlasting life. That's not what it all means. It also means you can have everlasting life from the moment that you ingest and then become renewed. And I know, and I know I'm treading on shallow waters here, right? Because, they have taken so much time. They have taken so much time to indoctrinate the way they want you to interpret those simple words. That's why I always encourage you to go read on your own. And if you have to, go get the simplest translation, which is not King James, but go get the most simplest translation, and then move backwards from there. And so then you can start getting the foundation into the words and the root words, which come from the varying language that the Bible was originally written in. See, because they have watered down some of the wording. I am not sitting here trying to tell you that the Bible is not the inherent word of God. I'm not going to do that with you, because that's not where I'm trying to go. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that the interpretation that you have gotten over the years, and I'm talking about even way before your pastor even got his true or her true interpretation. That's why I definitely invite you to go listen to some of the unity explanations throughout the Bible, because they bring it to you real, and they go get the real root words. So you're not, twisting it from a pastor that was already giving it twisted. But anyway, don't want to do this that way. But the resurrection, being able for you to hit the reset button, you to get the rebirth, to be reborn. It comes down to the thinking of the mind, not just the thinking part of the mind that gives you the reasoning, but the subconscious mind, to change your behavior that you have been, I don't want to say propaganda, but you have been conditioned in a way to think and not fall out of line. This is where we get to the Haywood Barber, the Harlem heretic. And the word heresy means it's just somebody that does not follow normal doctrine just because. I want to know why. I want to know how we got to this place. But just for simplicity right now, I want you to understand that the resurrection for you can be the rebirth at any given time in your life. You have the ability not to die and then come back alive, to come back to life like Christ did. But remember, the Bible shows us symbolisms all the way throughout the books, New Testament and Old. You have the ability to reset who you are. You have the ability at any age that you are to come to a place and renew yourself. That's what God gives you. He is trying to show you that no matter what your past has been, it has nothing to do with the future. If you make up your mind and plant that seed in your mind and then plant it on your subconscious mind, that will give you the ability to change everything from that moment that the seed starts to grow. Because that's a renewing. That's brand new for you. And you can do it. The resurrection, the revival can be a celebration all in itself, all by itself, in you, with God. So I know that they have taught most of us to cast God in the sky and that one day we will die and then go up to be with Him to have our revival. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is true, but you can have your revival right here on earth right now. He wants you to be reborn into a new. That's what the whole thing is about being born again. It just doesn't mean that now you get the opportunity to go to heaven. It's the opportunity to develop heaven right here on earth right now. When you think about the Lord's Prayer, that's what it's all about. So don't skip your blessing, your biggest blessing. If you decide right now in your rebirth, your resurrection, your rebirth, your reset, to be super great right now, it's a done deal. Anyway, we got to close out on that. You see, they're still trying to get to me. I refuse to answer. I'm going to finish my show. Obama's Easter Sunday at church. So they gave him a whole bunch of crap about Reverend Wright, right? And you know that Reverend Wright, to a large degree, was right about what he said about America. See, but this whole thing about America and the way they treated people around the world and what they have done to other countries around the world and trying to plot and subplot and trying to refix and fix them to be a democracy like this country, which is a lie in itself. But let's not do that right now. But no one is to talk about this, the way America has been a hypocrite, if you tell the truth, about many things that it has done in the name of diplomacy, democracy, the founding documents, and so on and so forth. We know it's been crap. That's why, when you think about our children these days going down the path that they're going, they don't want to hear the nonsense that America is the greatest country in the world. And they know, despite the fact that they try to hide the evidence of what America has done to various countries around the world throughout the years, it's out there, especially now with Google. And they try to hide it from us, but it's true that they can find all the information. So now the big deal is about Obama going to a church, I believe, well, anyway, it was a church in D.C., not too far away from the Capitol, and I believe the Latino brother that was the pastor talked about America trying to swing us back into blacks being on the back of the bus, women being in the kitchen, immigrants being across the border, not on this side of the border, which is all true statements. However, they cloak it in the way that they say it. So yeah, today, you had Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, all of these guys jumping on the fact that this pastor said these things, and how could this pastor, being a pastor of the church, say these things? Well, because he knows too. And when they want to talk about separation of church and state, but then there's no separation when it comes down to marriage, which is a part of that whole piece, right? Or gays and lesbians and the freedom rights, and who charged the crusade against or for slavery back in the founding days of this country. So where was the church then? But then just such hypocrisy that they live in. They live in such a twisted way. And as I said at the top of the show, that these guys are the very same guys that every single thing that President Obama does is wrong. For the first time, I actually heard Mike Huckabee, which usually sides with these guys, even though they made him an outcast because of some of the truth that he has brought to light about the Americas, not the Americas, right? That would almost try and put South America into this bag with the United States. But the United States, in all its nonsense that it has done over the years, and Mike Huckabee has actually come out and said some of the things that America has been involved with Wall Street and ripping off Americans beyond the taxpayers, beyond the super poor, but just the 95% of the country, not the 5% of the country that are the Wall Street kingpins. Mike Huckabee likes to cite Goldman Sachs, which might be a little bit troublesome for him. But anyway, so they got on Obama again for going to the wrong church again. So it doesn't matter which church this guy goes to. These guys are going to look for something. I've never seen ever a president be bombarded with doing the wrong thing so much by one group of people. I mean, at least Mike Huckabee, as I said, is saying to a certain degree that he can't he can't put the whole thing on Obama. Of course he says, but he has tripled the debt in the time that he's been in office, which we all know, and you always use this when you're at the water cooler with these nitwits, that if you think that the debt that President Obama has received over the last 5 years is all him, you're crazy. And they're crazy. Don't fuss with them too much because you might lose your job. But let them know that it's virtually impossible that this debt could be all President Obama's, when we know that Clinton didn't pay for his prescription or drug plan, didn't pay at all for the 2 wars that he started, which was completely bogus. So we all know that now, right? And the fact that he spun this country, they robbed it so badly, they tripped this country to go into a recession, right? All President Bush's fault. The fact that President Bush, which I don't know if President Bush was even aware, but it's probably more Cheney. I'm big on Cheney being a gangster. But you know, there's a show out now called Hubris, where you can see how they tricked America into believing that the wars were necessary. Mushroom clouds, you know, with all these lies. But you never see Sean Hannity talk about Bush and the lies that the rabbit hole that he put us in to go down and to be in these wars. And trust me, these wars, they were not necessary, but that's not the point. The point of the wars were not to go in war, because don't even believe that it's because Bush was retaliating on Iraq because the leader at that time put a hit out on Bush's father. That's what a lot of people like to say. And whether it's a conspiracy theory or not, that's not the reason. They would actually be okay with you thinking that that was the case, but that wasn't the case. What it was an opportunity for Cheney and his cronies to steal the country blind. Boom. Just steal. So anyway, we went over the resurrection. We went over Obama and these clowns giving President Obama the shaft because he went to this church, which is ridiculous. How can President Obama know what the pastor is going to say or not say? It's crazy. And we talked about North Carolina being a nanny state, over the top, worse than New York. Clinton wins, right? They say that Hillary Clinton is getting closer and closer to running for president. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. We know that the country was not quite ready for a woman president the last go-round. If she's healthy enough, and I hope she is, I hope she go ahead and give it a shot. I think that she'll bring a lot to the table. This country needs a good little rattling from the grand old party. Just sickening. And we already know that when America came from the gold standard, you know, we used to keep, for every dollar that was printed, we used to have it backed by gold in Fort Knox. Well, there's some indication that there's no gold there. And who changed the American currency from the gold standard was President Nixon, and we're going to have to get into this tomorrow. But President Nixon was the one that took us away from that gold standard, which every dollar being backed by gold. But anyway, we're going to get into that a little bit later. But we got to roll. Get into real estate, y'all. It's coming back. I got a student that's got a deal on the table that's going to yield him with $1 investment. This student, you know, coming from one of our programs, I think it was it was between gold program and a platinum program. He, with $1 down, that's what we taught. We taught simply holding properties, putting yourself in the middle. I believe putting yourself in the middle, being a transaction engineer, if you will, being a middleman, and you can put yourself in the middle, almost what these some of these guys that Bush and his Cheney and his cronies were doing, but in a very suspicious kind of way. But let me say this: real estate investing, learn a technique called wholesaling. Keep an eye out for me and Lola. Even though we're living in separate locations, she will be doing some classes. I think she's going to actually do some classes online. I'm not quite that savvy, but she will do some classes online teaching wholesaling. Watch for our website that's going to be realestateIsEasy.com. But anyway, stay tuned, because we seriously want you to know how to do wholesaling. And I mean, we're gonna give all this away, because just like last time, it took almost, I started learning real estate investing 15 years before it started to just bubble. And we are at that point again, where it's way beyond, way beyond the boiling point. So, but start learning, because this is not a difficult technique to learn. Very, very simple. And when Lola and I taught it together, we made sure that we gave the information from a place of third grade information. Right? We wanted to make it so simple to digest. And that's always been a problem in this country. You know, getting rich in America is not that difficult, but the people that know how to get rich, they make sure they keep the information first, and they keep it in books, and they try not to put it on tape and CD and things like that, to make it easy for people that don't know how to learn the same way that they learned. Right? So that's another story altogether. But learn, yeah, and I gotta go because I'm way over time now, right? And we gotta go. We're up against a hard break. I learned that from listening to the radio guys, the crazy guys. But do everything you can to learn a technique called wholesaling, right? Using a dollar, just a dollar down, to hold properties, and then flip the properties. Just a powerful, powerful technique. As a matter of fact, this tune that we're going to go out on was done by one of our students a few years ago. That's just it comes with a rhyme, but I'm playing the instrumental right now. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. This is Haywood Barber. The Haywood Barber Show. The Harlem Heretic, bringing it to you. I only march to my own beat. I'm sorry. I don't even apologize for it. You just rock and roll. Thank you very much for coming here. And the number one thing I want to always say, which I didn't get to say at the top of the show, I love you. I love you very much. Not just for coming here, but just for being a child of God. I love you very much. You can always come to this show knowing that you can get an I love you. And the I love you I'm giving you is sincere. It's straight real. And the primary reason, not that I know you, not that I'm acquainted with you. Certainly you don't need to get an I love you from somebody just because you're intimate with them. And I know that that's a false statement in America these days. But I love you because you're a child of God. Simply. I'm a child of God. That means we're brothers and sisters in God. So, I love you very much. Thank you. Haywood Barber of the Haywood Barber Show.